what's going on? This is Goshan from Goshanbeatz. This is just another beat breakdown for my EP with Under the Influence. I'll have a link in the bio below. Yeah, I just want to go through just, step by step. Just want to show you guys how I put this song together. The song is called Sunset Therapy. Like I said, it's going to be on the EP. And real quick backstory how this song came about. Influence, he had some lyrics that he had for another beat, and so what I had him do was send me his vocals. At the time they were processed, it was just his vocals, and I just ended up building a beat around it. And I actually have three different versions of this song. The third one we end up going with, and I actually got my wife involved, and I had her listen to the different versions, and she was saying she was thinking that based on his like voice and everything and his style, we should go with like a Kid Cudi like inspiration. So I was like, okay. So I was doing some research on Kid Cudi because I'm not a huge Kid Cudi fan. I mean, he's definitely talented, but it's just not my style of music. But you know, listening to a lot of him for this project, I definitely grew to appreciate him much more. And the one song I like a lot was "Just What I Am" with King Chip. I think yeah, this is it right here. And so I was listening to that, and this song definitely inspired certain elements with this beat that I put together. So without wasting any more time, I'm gonna go ahead and get into it. We'll start with the drums. Let me sure. Okay. Real quick. So I just wanted to go with a simple drum pattern. I didn't want to do nothing too crazy. As I was adding elements, I noticed that the elements were thicker and they were taking up a lot of space, so I didn't want the drums to take up any more space. So I just kept it really simple. Got a regular rack kick. I went with like a wood style snare, like a wood shot or a rim shot. I'm sorry, it's like a rim shot and a regular snare put together. The reason I went with this one, it kind of gives this like realistic texture to it instead of like a trap snare or something like that that's overly processed. I really wanted to keep the drums um not overly processed. Like I really wanted to have some real elements, real textures in there. The only thing I think is the like a trap style drum is this hi-hat. But everything else is more of a realistic sound. As far as the processing on these, the kick, I have a DBX 160, doing about 5 dB of compression. Then nothing crazy. The reason I use the DBX is because it does really well bringing the attack out of sounds, specifically this kick. But in doing so, it took away some of the thump or the bass or low end of the kick. So then I use this to boost some of the high end to make it a little bit more clicky, but also boost a little bit of the low end at 60 hertz. I boosted around like 3.5 dB. Snare, there's nothing on the snare. The snare was perfect. The hi-hat, the realistic one, this is monitoring. I was just looking at the stereo field. Here, only compressing just a little bit. Just trying to tame the peaks a little bit. Then I got this True Verb from Jason Joshua. It's just to help the hi-hat tuck into the beat a little bit so it's not like standing out too much. I really wanted the trap hi-hat to stand out more. So that's why actually I don't have anything on there except actually does this do anything? Yeah, it is. So the pan man is just pretty much panning the hi-hat back and forth automatically. Just so it's not too static. The other drum element we have is this drum loop. As you can hear, it's heavily processed. That's the bounce down version. This is the plugins I had on it. I just cut some a little bit of low end, so it's not too subby. Then I distorted it quite a bit with the black box. Let me see. I specifically used the pentode. It gives you an edgier, distorted sound, and that's what I was looking for. Um, yeah. So my idea behind this kind of processing, I didn't want this drum loop to be the main drum sound, but I definitely wanted something thicker, um, but with some presence with the drums, because with the drums by themselves, they're really dry, and I didn't want to overprocess them. I just wanted to keep them as clean as possible, but I did want a dirtier sound, so I kind of used this in a way as like a parallel kind of effect, where it's a totally different drum kit, but with distorting it like this, I'm able to tuck it in the background, but it has just enough presence where if there's a filler and there's a feeling behind it with the drums, it makes it more a little bit more aggressive without being in your face, if that makes sense. Same thing with the Empirical Labs distressor. I was crushing it. I think I was ended up doing like 10 dB on this. Let's see. So there's a little bit of filtering, just taking out some notches here of these resonant frequencies. And I believe this was just doing a little bit like peak control, maybe like 1 or 2 dB. Then I have Soothe right here as a side chain from the kick. So every time the kick hits, turn this on right here. It's gonna duck the low end of the drum loop. Yeah, fast attack, fast release, very standard. And that's pretty much it for the drum sound. Like I said, there's not too much else with it. I do have cymbal here. It's not a realistic sounding cymbal, but it kind of gets the job done. I really need something. I really wanted something like very like clicky in the beginning, because when this comes in, I really want it to like be a little bit exciting. So let's go ahead and continue on. What's this? This is a bass. So yeah, we can move on to bass. So there's two parts to this bass. This one just basically it's a saw wave um with I believe an octave down with a little bit of distortion. Wait a minute, not from here. It's yeah, this is where. So I'm using this to distort it. There's a this plug is actually really cool. It has different distortion flavors from like an overdrive, play it, thickening. Oh, but this gave me what I was looking for. I really wanted something. I don't want to keep using the word sizzly, but that's literally what I was looking for. Something a little bit sizzly, not too edgy, because like I said, I didn't want it to take up too much of the mid-range space, but I just wanted this bass to really like shine in just a little bit when the hook comes in. So that's what I end up going with. A little dip around 400, high pass filter. And this compressor is just doing basic control. Like I'm not trying to squash it, but I am trying to keep it in one space. I didn't want it to kind of like come in and out of the mix too much. Then I use the Pultec to roll off the high end on 20K. Then I use this to narrow the bass a little bit because it came in wide. And instead of me kind of like using this to bring it in, I wanted to use it on the last piece of the chain, mainly because with all the processing, each process, especially like the valve, I think this thing is actually doing something with the width. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. This is what I hear, but it actually helps it be contained as I'm narrowing it, if that makes sense. At least that's what I hear. So that's why I did it this way. Let me see. So I did have another plugin, Serum, but I ended up bouncing that, and that's what this is. And all I have is a high pass, low pass on this one. Cleaning up the low end and the high end. Let's see what's this. Oh, this is let's see, another plugin. Not gonna lie, did not touch any of these. I use a preset. I'm not that nerdy. I'm not even sure half the stuff what this does. But it does sound good. I had that bounce down as well. This is what this is. Here I'm narrowing it a little bit with this plugin, as you can see here. Dipping around 3 or 4K. This is just giving room for the vocal. Let me see. I do another high pass, make room for the bass. And I'm using a Fairchild, mainly because the Fairchild is really good at keeping things smooth, and I really wanted this to stay as smooth as possible, but also controlling the dynamics a little bit. And then here, all I'm using this is a pretty much a low pass filter, kind of attenuating 20K, and that's it. You know, my idea right here, I wanted some dreamy sounds in there, and this is giving me that dreamy vibe. And I really wanted to keep it really smooth because this is going to be in the background, but I wanted to kind of like fill in the space nicely. I didn't want any frequencies poking through. I didn't want any distraction with the high end because there's plenty of high end that's going to be there from the vocal, drums, and other instruments. So I really want this to just be nice and just like kind of like a blanket, you can say, in the back. I'll do it before, like I'll kind of like when I put everything together, I'll start taking elements out, and you'll hear what I'm talking about. Let's see what other stuff we have here. Okay, we have this, and this is actually is a loop. This right? Oh, that's wrong. Where is it? That's it. This. So before I bounced that down, I ended up having these right here. So it was very narrow, practically mono, but using this to spread it out a little bit, to make it wide. Then here's some processing here. Did a little bit of low pass, or I'm sorry, high pass and a low pass. Dip some of the mid. Again, make some room for that vocal, specifically this area right here. That's why it's in mid mode. Some low mids here, carving that out. That was really for the vocal too, but also is for like other instruments, like the drums and the bass. It's probably specifically the bass. Then I tried actually several different compressors for this sound. I wanted something that was gonna be quick, but not too quick. As far as like release, I believe the fastest release on this one is like 50 milliseconds, which is fine. That works. But I also wanted something with a quick attack, and but also that doesn't like completely take out the transients. I wanted something that was kind of like you can tame it, but it won't kill it, and this worked the best. Unfortunately, I can't. Oh, hold on, let me. Uh, I can show you. Only this one. Uh-oh. Like I hope you can hear that. What it really is. It's just controlling the sound. It's not really like taking out the peaks. It's not really doing much else than just really kind of like controlling it. Kind of basically, what I'm trying to do is like really put it into a pocket, and that's what this compressor is doing. I'm not looking to smash it. I'm not looking to take out the transients completely. I'm really just taking it and try to like compress it just enough where it's like sitting in a pocket where it's not moving too much. And then I used the Helios again. Let me see, what am I doing? I'm bumping 60 hertz here because it technically it is a bass type instrument, so I wanted to keep the low end in there. That just without it. What? There's a couple of things I'm doing. So I'm doing a little teeny dip around 700, boosting about 4 dB at 60. But I'm also like lowering the volume, so it's kind of like creating this curve. Um, it's kind of like doing something like this. So like here's our unity line where our original volume is, with me boosting the low end, but then also lowering around 700 hertz. Sorry. Um, it's creating like this curve right here. So it's like almost in a way, it's almost like doing like a big carve right here and leaving the low end. So in a way, it's kind of like cleaning up a lot of like like it's hard to explain. It's like it's doing like a cleanup without changing the volume too much. Like it's making the low end a little bit more rounder, but also taming the mid range a little bit. At least this is what I hear, and this is how I visualize it when I'm making a move like this. Let's see, I have this. This is actually a newer plugin that Plugin Alliance came out with. It's quite interesting. It's one unit with three different units in it. I ended up going with this one. This was like a SSL style. Let me do it before and after. Now, what this is doing is actually bringing some attack back. So with like a this is a semi slow fast release, like a medium release, and with a slow attack around 10 milliseconds, but a low ratio because I didn't want, like, again, I'm not trying to crush it. I'm just trying to give me like a certain desired sound. And in this case, I wanted some more attack to come through, and that's what this is giving me. So let me like try to pay attention to the attack as that's coming in, and you'll hear what I'm saying or hear what I'm thinking. It's kind of like poppy, clicky, like that. That's what I was going for with that. And here, this is just a regular filter that I actually had automated. Yeah, I just had automated. Simple as that. Here's a low, high pass filter. Sorry, and this only comes in at certain parts. I believe it comes in the hook because there's a whole bunch of basses going on. There's drums, there's bass, there's like chords. So when all that stuff comes in, this cuts off. That's really all that is, just to make space for the bass, because this is like a bass style synth. So I didn't want this to really mask any other sounds or other frequencies in the song. That's all that is. That's that. I'm gonna mute this. Move on to the next. We have some bells. I have. There's an EQ on here doing nothing. So I think I was gonna tame certain frequencies, but it worked as it is. I didn't need to do anything else. Let's see what. I think I think that's everything. There's some other automation stuff going on here. There's a lot of like volume automation. Let's go ahead and go to the vocal.
Twilight, sundown, sunset, shut down. No lights, no sound. Blacked out when I hit the ground.
So what's going on here is quite a bit. Well, not quite a bit, but just some stuff here. So this is standard for me. I pretty much do this on every vocal. Uh, so this is doing some dynamic control on the low end. Actually, this as well. This is just doing a slight boost at 10K. When coming in, there's like just some boominess right here. So I just wanted to tame it just a little bit. Nothing too crazy because I'm gonna do some more taming down the line. But I always want to start here. There's always a bit of boominess around like 4 to 700 hertz usually is a range with the boominess, and then this is just controlling the low end. That's really it. Here with the C4, I got this from Jason Joshua. I actually have it as a preset, and what this is doing is trying to get overall control in each band somewhat evenly. Just try to get more control over certain frequencies. So let me just show you.
Twilight, sundown, sunset, shut down. No lights, no sound. Blacked out when I hit the ground. Slipped on liquor.
So like the idea, at least for me, Jason Joshua could probably explain it a little bit differently, but for me, I'm thinking, with the threshold at the same level except for the low end, it's much lower. I want to try to get all these bands at the same level as each other while taming that band, if that makes sense. It's almost like if I'm compressing each band by itself, I want the unity gain to be at the same level as the other bands. So that's how I'm thinking about this. So I want to, one, move this I guess you could say crossover frequency. I want this to kind of like I want to move it to a point where both of these are compressing around the same, so there's not too much of a difference. But I want to make sure they are getting compressed a good amount, so then it can really flatten out the frequency, so there's not too many frequencies poking out. Like it's not too muddy, it's not too boomy, but it's also not too harsh, and it's not too edgy. So that's the idea behind this, at least for me.
Twilight.
So let me like show you a before and after. I'll take it out. I'll leave everything else in. I'll take it out.
Twilight, sundown, sunset, shut down. No lights, no sound. Blacked out when I hit the ground. Slipped on liquor, it was dark brown. Landed on soft white with the snow plow. Lift off on the go now. High on therapy, I'm a pro now.
So like there's quite a little bit more like mid-range energy here, so it's compressing a little bit more, but it's also making it even with like the upper mids. And so the reason that's important, because then when I go to do other processing, I'm not getting these wildly crazy inconsistencies with the frequency response. So like when I go to like compress, I'm not compressing too much on the low end of the vocal. I'm compressing the whole vocal a little bit more evenly, so it gives me a more desired like tone, at least what I'm looking for. Next thing, I'm using Soothe.
Twilight, sundown,
just to soothe out
sunset,
the little high end
no
frequencies
lights,
in mid range.
no sound. Blacked out when I hit the ground. Slipped on liquor, it was dark.
This right here is pretty much like secret weapon. And so just like before, if I here, let me just show you. I'll just show you. I'll take this out. And then should be doing about 1 dB of compression.
Twilight, sundown, Sunset, shut down. No lights, no sound.
I'll put it
Blacked
in.
out when I hit the ground. Slipped on liquor, it was dark brown. Landed on soft white with the snow plow.
So now, what's happening here is, before, anytime there was a low note, it would poke out. Um, and it will the compressor responds differently. Even though it's compressing less, is responding differently. But with me taming the low end, but also taming the high end evenly, I get to compress a little bit more without changing the tone too much. It's actually making it smoother and rounder doing it this way. Hopefully that makes sense. But it makes sense to me. Like when I really want a round, smooth mix and like a warm like vocal, I would definitely think about, okay, how can I tame the low mids of the vocal, so when I go to use my main compressor, it's not doing too much work, but also I can use the compressor's tone to give me that smoother, like thicker low mid sound. You know what I mean? So, in some cases, some people say, okay, if you want something like warm as far as your vocal, just leave a little bit more of that frequency. Well, I'd rather get that tone from my compressor or EQ, specifically like a emulation of an EQ, like I don't know, like actually I don't use to like a Pultec. If I wanted to use a Pultec on this vocal, but I wanted a warm sound, I'm carving that or at least taming that first and then adding it back in with that emulation. That to me is much smoother and translates much better than like just boosting that frequency. But as far as the settings, it's I never change it. It doesn't matter how the vocal is, really, unless it's really extreme, then maybe I'll adjust the release. But otherwise, I'm keeping it medium no matter what. It doesn't matter if it's slow, fast, loud, quiet. I'm keeping it here. The only thing I adjust is the threshold, just to try to get about 3 dB of compression if it needs it. But if not, I'll settle for 1 dB. Especially if it sounds good. That's really what matters most. I am doing a little boost around 3K for clarity, but other than that, that's it. Then I'm using the CLA vocals. This thing is actually really cool. It's funny because I've been using Waves for ever. Like I even had a cracked version, like 10 years ago at one point, and I never used this thing. I never understood how to use it. Didn't understand how it worked, why it was useful, nothing. But again, Jason Joshua showed how he uses it, and it changed everything for me. Basically, it's like a parallel processing plugin wrapped into one. So, like for compression, this is all parallel within the plugin. So you're just different types of compression settings that you want. Like a push is more like a subtle compression. Spank is more aggressive, and wall is like pretty much limiting. And then you just adjust this how much of that sound you want. Same thing with these right here, they're all parallel. So a treble, these are different type of high ends. Bite is more like a like a mid range, like a 1 to 2, 3K. Top is more like a 5 to 8K, and then roof is like super high end, like 16K or something like that. Same thing with the low end. So all of this is all parallel. So I treat it as such. So like if I just needed a little bit more consistency with the vocal or a little bit more presence, I'm using this. So I'll do it before and after. So.
Twilight, sundown, sunset, shut down. No lights, no sound. Blacked out when I hit the ground. Slipped on liquor, it was dark brown. Landed on soft white with the.
So like this just gives me exactly what I need from the vocal at the end of the whole entire chain. It gives me that nice, clean, like I don't want to say edginess, but just presence. It gives me that presence that I want, but it's not harsh whatsoever. It's giving me a little bit more attack. So like some of his consonants are poking through just a little bit. Really gives that aggression. But yeah, and then some of the top, yeah, it's just clean. It gives you that nice little sheen. And sometimes I'll, if I need some more like sheen or like top in or sparkle, I'll use fresh air from Slate. But in this case, I didn't need to use it. On the bus, I just have a L1 limiter just to catch the initial peaks. Let's see. In this, vocal effects, I have a Vox spread, which is a simple doubler. Nothing crazy. Here's the delay settings, and then I'm doing these notches right here. And this is just to make room for the vocal. I don't want to take up more space in the vocal. I really want the vocal to have its own spot, and no one is allowed in that spot, including including the effects. Delay. I'm doing this before the delay, so when it does delay, it already has those notches in them. I'm doing a quarter note, ping pong. Let's see, low pass, high pass, around 500, and yeah, 4.5K. Vocal plate. I use the Verb Suite. Really like this plugin. It takes a lot of CPU, unfortunately, but when I can use it, it's amazing. And I'm not sure which of these models the Slate emulate. I know the BM7 is the Procrasti, which is really cool. It has some of the nicest sounding halls. But in this case, I'm using a plate, so they need to use that one. But yeah, no, this is pretty standard. This is what I use all the time. Same notches, and this is before the reverb. And then I'm feeding the reverbs into its own bus, which is really like just for some control. Like if I wanted to turn it down, I can just turn them all down from here. That's all this is for. Other than that, it's doing nothing. So that was the hook. I believe I did the same thing with his verse.
Therapy at night, hidden from the light, whispers like that.
Oh, there's one more. So there's another delay. Quarter note, half note. But I have a flanger effect over this one. And I also did like a telephone filter where it's really focusing on around like 1 or 2K. As you can hear.
Therapy at night, hidden from the light,
And that only plays in a certain part. Let's see. Yeah, so it's right here, insert 122. It comes in, and that's the feature. Jordan, his name is Jordan. It comes in on his verse. But it's the same settings for this vocal as well.
Therapy.
So here's an EQ, a little dip here. Here's a dynamic EQ, same exact settings. Same thing here. Yep, 1300. Soothe. Mainly doing the same boost around 3K. Same exact settings. And this one is a little bit different. I went with bite instead of top, mainly because with this being the verse, I wanted to have more presence in the mid range, around like 1 to 2.5K ish. Just it gives you that more rap vibe. So that's what I went for. And his verse is actually Jordan's verse is in the same channel. And the reason I decided to do that is because I went through different chains with Jordan's verse, mainly, and I'll show you why. So I take all the plugins off, undo the effects.
I'm a pro now. I'ma take that flight. When you up like Jordan, you be soaring. Yeah, you do what you like. When you go foreign and she'll for it, yeah.
So there's a lot of processing on this vocal, and so I was trying to clean it up as much as I can, and it was not working. So I had to pretty much go back to the drawing board and really treat it as if it's not processed. So I just simply put it under the same exact chain as Influence's verse, and it just worked because it just works. So here, I'll turn it on now.
I'm a pro now. I'ma take that flight. When you up like Jordan, you be soaring. Yeah, you do what you like. When you go foreign and she'll for it. Yeah, that's my type. The drugs we storing should be foreign. Yeah, we got it online. Shorty a vibe, just a moment in time.
So I did mono it because it didn't need to. It didn't need those reverb out there like that. The reverb is still there. It's recorded into his recording. That's unfortunate, but I worked with it. Um, but with me monoing it, I clean up a lot of the space. So with the settings being exactly the same exact chain, it gives me what I wanted from the vocal. It's cleaned up. It has presence. It has its own pocket and everything. So it just worked. I mean, it's not the best because the way the recording is, but I worked with it, and in the context of the rest of the mix, it's perfect. Um,
I'm a pro now. I'ma take that flight. When you up like Jordan, you be soaring. Yeah, you do what you like. When you go foreign and you're for it, yeah.
and the reverb kind of like supports it a little bit, even though it's in mono, and that's why with the plate, whereas the plate is not mono, it actually helps it give it even another space. It's almost like it's in two spaces. And I knew that, so that's why when this part comes in, I put this chain together for this delay
Like we on some hippie love. It's just you and me, it's just you and
with
me.
the
This some good
flanger.
and sweet, this some good and sweet. Stirring out a dirty Sprite plug, got us on another high. It's a night, right through the night, right? Twilight.
So it worked with the vibe of the song. So I mean, you know, life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, right? All right. Let's see. What's I think that's it. I think that's it. The only thing else I could show you is these tape stop effects that we threw in there.
High on therapy, I'm a pro now. I'ma take that flight when you up like.
So what I did was, let's see. So most of these have their own buses. So all the tracks that I wanted was really the music one. See, in the drums, they go to this bus here, and I use this FL's plugin called Grow. What is it? Grosbeat. Sorry, Grosbeat. And basically, it's a time-based plugin, and does all kind of crazy stuff like tape stops and tape starts, vinyl pushes, stuff like that. And this all came from Influence's idea actually. So me and him, when we were going back and forth, he would take the song and he will add different like dips or effects, and he would say, "Hey, can you recreate this?" And so that's what I ended up doing. So he had like a little tape stop effect right here, and it's automated. So basically, here I'll play it.
High on therapy, I'm a pro now. I'ma take that.
So at that moment, it will automate. It will bring this vinyl stop in. It will make that effect. But also, I do a volume change or automation.
High on therapy, I'm a pro now. I'ma take that flight when you.
That one, and there's another one right here.
Give it up, I told her to give it up. Same night, we did it like we on some hippie love. It's just you and me, it's just you and me.
It's very subtle, but that's it. Really, this is the that's the whole breakdown. The only other thing I ended up using was on the master. So I went through different mastering two bus processing. I wouldn't even call it mastering. This is two bus processing. I don't actually technically master. I more or less just make it loud. Um, I like this. This is the SSL bus compressor. And believe it or not, I actually used a parallel function on this. I used to do everything wet and really just fine tune and find that setting, but I always found, at least with my mixes, because my mixes are typically bass heavy, it was always over compressing, or even if I did a little bit of compression, it was not giving me enough compression. So if I wanted to get the compression I wanted, I had to sacrifice some bass a little bit. And not gonna lie, wasn't a fan of that. So, but what I end up doing is I will just compress the shit out of it, and I'll just bring it back until it feels right. And around like 30, 35, sometimes 40%, it feels right. Then this thing, it's amazing. The machine head. I have this one setting that I use for every mix now. There's two versions of it. There's the original, because this is an emulation of a unit. I'm not gonna get into it, but this is their original emulation, and then this is like their enhanced version. The enhanced version for me, it just works. I like it. And I used to use the FGX as the limiter, my main limiter, and it's a great limiter. Don't get me wrong, but I discovered this gem, the Mix Boss. The Mix Boss. This thing is crazy. It looks a little like it looks complicated but simple in the same time, and it's because it is complicated and simple in the same time. I won't do a plugin breakdown right now, but I'll just say like this is more like a multi-band like compression setting right here, and then this is the limiter right here, and it just as you'll kind of like get an idea how I like to do things. If it works, it just works. If even if the plugin looks wacky or maybe the sound comes out kind of weird, but if it works for the mix, then it works for me. So in this case, this gave me the loudness I was looking for, but also with the additional settings, it gave me more depth. It did things in a nice way. It didn't bring up unwanted frequencies. It really controlled those unwanted frequencies, and also keeping it loud and not too loud either. Just I don't know. I know Spotify wants -14 lufs, but I really shoot for around -10. That's like my range. So that's where I'm at with that. Um, so yeah, no, that's the breakdown for this song. If you want to listen to the whole song from start to end, like I said, I'll have a link in the bio. Go ahead and check out the EP. Let me guys, let me know what you think. Let me know what other content you would like me to do, because I'm gonna be doing more breakdowns. I'll be breaking down the rest of the EP as well. There's 4 of them, so be in tune with that. Yeah, so don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you, sir. All right, until next time.